Picking up where we left off, we were about to enable a script. Let's go back in the game, spend a point, I don't know, mess around a little bit, trigger some events. So we open up the script here. We have our AOB scan. Everything seems to be in order, or at least Cheat Engine certainly not complaining. All our labels, our symbols, if you will, they all match up. Everything that's declared is defined. So the basic grammar of our script is correct. So let's go ahead and enable it. But if there are logical errors, such as off by one or jumping to the wrong address or something like that, those are things that Cheat Engine will never find. And I don't even, if I had to guess, I'd say that Cheat Engine makes absolutely no attempt, frankly, to find that stuff. It probably doesn't care. It assumes that if you're writing scripts like this, then you kind of know what you're doing, or at least you should know what you're doing. And so it's not going to go out of its way to do you any favors in that respect. So let's enable the script. It hangs for a second, and then it comes back with an X, and you can see over here on the left it changed. Let's disable the script. This goes back to normal. We'll shrink this a little bit, or narrow it, as the case may be. So we're going to re-enable the script. This over here will change. Again, there's a slight delay because when it's doing the AOB scan, what is it doing? What it is doing is it's selecting a value type. This is just sort of a rough analogy, if you will. It is selecting the value type array of bytes. It's searching for this array, and then it's doing that. And as you can see, well, we'll demonstrate that point in a second, but when you do an AOB scan, or when you scan for anything in a process, there's a delay. As this meter fills up and Cheat Engine does its business or whatever, then, there's some delay. So when you do an AOB scan, that's exactly what Cheat Engine is doing. And you have to basically deal with the delay of filling up this meter and doing the scan. So let's talk about what just happened. We're doing a new scan, a first scan. We're not able to find it. What is going on here? What is going on is that we have the script enabled, so we've clobbered the unique byte array, or bytes, that make up the instructions we were interested in. So when we go to new scan, Cheat Engine it basically is saying, I can't find that array of bytes. I don't know what that means, or I know what that means, but I can't find it. It doesn't exist in the memory of this process. But you're saying, I can see the instruction right there. It's got to be the same thing. Because really, an assembly instruction is just a series of bytes that's fed, or bits, bytes, whatever you want to say, that's fed into the processor. Well, what we can do is, whenever there's a jump instruction over here in the memory viewer, if you right click, we're going to go up here to the sub instruction. If you right click on the sub and you look at sort of the context thing that pops up, there's no go to or follow or anything crazy like that. But when you right click on a jump, suddenly there's a follow. And basically what that is that's Cheat Engine saying, okay, when you right click on a jump instruction and you click on follow, it's going to basically just go to address, and then it's going to auto paste in this value, and then it's just going to jump to that code. So let's just right click on this. Let's go to follow, and here's our code. You can see there's another jump here, because if you follow along here, sort of, when we inject onto this or into this memory location right here, as returned by the AOB scan, and as sort of inherited that memory location as the inject increase karma, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to jump. So we're jumping to entry increase karma. What is entry increase karma? Well, it's a label, and it has some memory location associated with it. What is that memory location? For the purposes in this context of the script, we don't care what that memory location is, because we're using the power of labeling and names and variables and all that kind of black magic stuff that we don't have to worry. But over here in the memory viewer, what you're seeing is 0CB80005. So what the memory viewer is telling you is, it's saying, I'm not dealing with names. I'm breaking it down so that you can look at any memory location and any instruction you want. So we are code injecting on this point, and what we are injecting is a jump and a not. And we are jumping to entry increase karma, And if we go over here and we right click and we go to back, you can see that the first thing that what we are injecting is a jump to some label, some memory location, and then a NOP. You can see that right here. So let's follow this, and then what are we looking at here? Well, the first thing you're looking at is entry increase karma. And then what does entry increase karma does? It jumps immediately down to process increase karma. What is process increase karma? It's a label, but what it really is it's a memory location. And there's some instructions associated with that memory location. So what is the actual value of process increase karma? It is 0CB80005. And then you can see right here, here's our code, here's our actual assembly that there are instructions that we are executing as evidenced over here. And what you can also see is that the first 6 bytes match up perfectly with this 8986E0000000, 8986E00000. They match up. But the last 3 that we added because we were getting multiple results over here, the 8B4670, obviously the instruction after this, it is not the same. So that's why we can't find it. And this sort of illustrates the higher concept, or sort of the more general concept, that if you want to sort of follow your assembly script through memory and basically look at the assembly instructions that you're putting into memory, it's really quite simple. We'll right click, we'll go to back. This is the injection point, the original injection point. If you look over here on the left for address, you can see it just is inject increase karma. Inject increase karma. So you can sort of see, or not sort of, but you can make the relation absolutely visually clear about labels are really just memory locations. So let's see if we can, is there any way that we can make it even more clear? Let's go to view, show symbols, show comment. All right, so in the memory viewer here, they're up in view, there's something that says show symbols. Let's uncheck that. Does that help us? Does that do what we want? It does not. Show module, that's definitely not what we want. User defined symbols. All right, so let's dive into that a little bit. This is something that I don't usually use because I don't need to, but when you are running a script and you go up to view, you say user defined symbols, Cheat Engine will pop up a little window here, and it'll just basically say, well, here's all the user defined symbols that I know about. How do we know what a user defined symbol is? Because you've registered that symbol. So anything that you do register symbol and then you enter some label name or whatever is going to pop up. See, now we can't even find it because we've got 1,000 windows open, but it's going to pop up in this user defined symbol window. So if at any point, if you have 100 symbols or something defined, and or whatever as the case may be, and you just want to basically, again, we got 1,000 windows open here, so I got to sort of juggle this a little bit, and you just want to know what's defined and what's not defined, maybe you're debugging or something like that, you just go up to view, you go to show user defined symbols, it'll pop up this window and say, hey, here's all the symbols I know about, here is the mapping between the symbol name and the address, and then if there's some size or whatnot associated with it, then it'll show that as well. So let's do that. Let's bring it back up. All right, so let's disable the script. The jumps here will obviously all disappear. Let's re-enable it. It pauses for a second, then it reappears. Let's disable it. Let's re-enable it. Let's disable it. Let's go back in the game. Spend a point, reduce point, spend a point, reduce point. Let's enable it. Spend a point, reduce point, spend a point, reduce point. At this point, that's a whole lot of points. What exists right now is a script that is structured in a way so that we can build it out and do all kinds of, or basically do whatever the hell we want. And by having just this, by basically taking the original code and pasting it up here in process increase karma, we are just duplicating exactly what the functionality of what the application was originally. So when we NOPed, when we in the series of videos where we talked about NOP, what essentially we did was we just removed this. We essentially remove that instruction. So let's just comment it out. Let's see if we can reproduce the same behavior that we had with the NOP, but in the context of our script. So we're going to comment that out. We're going to hit OK. Looks good to me. We'll enable the script. AOB scan runs, finds a hit, injects on the right point. So let's spend a point. Nothing's happening. Why is nothing happening? Because we've commented out the assembly instruction that is actually moving values around. So let's reduce a point. Well, we're still getting karma. What's that about? Well, as we talked about, it's different routines. As you can see, find out what writes to this address. It's different routines when you subtract from the karma value in the character creation screen than it is when you add to it. So what we have to do, and we originally structured the script to deal with both, but then we sort of ripped it out. So what we'll do is we will disable it, and then we will go back in and we will add that functionality, to sort of clobber the decreased karma back. And we're going to move in that direction in the next video. What I want to talk about before we end this video, though, is that when you are doing this kind of stuff, you need to be sure that when you're searching for bytes and changing values and staring at an opcode, what opcode writes to this value or what have you, that you do not have this script enabled. So let's enable the script, or let's disable it. So this is going to be kind of a garbage dump, if you will, of some things that maybe we should have gone over sooner, but now is certainly the time to go over it. Let's go to script. Let's re-enable this so that the values are actually being changed. Hit OK. So now we're going to enable those. Before we even enable the script, pay attention to what we have down here. We have the count, and then we have the instruction. There's 11, 21, and 2. So let's hit this 3 times, see what changes by 3. It is this instruction. So according to the application, in its sort of default pure state, this is the instruction that is modifying the karma during character creation. When we hit minus, this one goes up to 22. So this is what is subtracting it. What are these two right here? What these two, and look at the instructions. These are close in memory, these two. This one is way the hell out there. What is going on here is that when we enable this script and then we come in and we change or trigger an event that changes the karma, our cheat engine is tracking that and saying, well, this is the memory location of the instruction that is accessing the value that you are interested in this case 0E272C90. So when you are multiple levels deep in this kind of stuff, if you forget that you have your script enabled and you start searching for values and things like that, you're going to just wind up out in memory, and it's going to be all wrong, because you're essentially, what you're doing is you're hunting down your own script. And this is, again, it's, in our case, it's not incredibly hard to be sure about that kind of stuff, but when you are doing a script that modifies multiple values, or you just been doing it for a while or something, like, you will eventually forget that you have the script enabled, and you'll start seeing some results or not seeing the results you want, saying, what the hell's going on? Again, we've clobbered this code. We're jumping to our script. We're modifying, basically have our own code running that's modifying or not modifying, as the case may be, the value that we are interested in. And Cheat Engine has no problem with the write windows. It basically has, WRITE windows. Basically, it has no problem tracking that, because it's just paying attention to the static value right here, or it's not static, but it's basically just saying, it will find anything that writes to this address. If you clobber the original code and then, overwrite it with something else, just like we're doing in the script, Cheat Engine will obviously notice that, and that's what you're seeing down here. So again, be sure that you have, when you go to add new functionality or refine your scans, or find some new instruction or something like that, make sure you have the script disabled, or you're going to probably get nowhere fast. And I've done it a couple times. So that's why I sort of a public service announcement about that. So when we come back, we'll build out the script a little bit to deal with the decreased karma, and then after that, we'll basically make it so that we can, instead of reproducing the functionality of the default game, we will start changing the functionality to do more helpful things for us.